Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is Janelle White, and I am the Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics at Point University. I learned so much from the now Dr. Charles Wickham Leadership Institute. It was then the Ethnic Minority Female Leadership Institute. Had the pleasure of being in the inaugural female class. And, connection, when I think about networking, I think about sisterhood. That's what that institute brought to me, and staying connected to those ladies now and having the opportunity to see them grow and pick their brains and learn about their leadership styles and philosophies is what helped me put my leadership style together. And I believe in helping people become the best versions of themselves. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is Kendee Hilliard, and I'm the current NCAA Division II Governance Post Grad Intern. Last time you heard from me, I was a volleyball student athlete at Illinois State University, where I played for 4 years and received several Missouri Valley championships. So I'm super excited to be back. And today I have Miss Ayanna Tweedy, the Director of Athletics for the Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Perfect,
awesome.
Perfect. It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm ready to talk.
Perfect. I'm going to ask you some tough, hard-hitting questions, but the first one kind of ease into it. So I read that you're a Division II student athlete, and now you're an AD at the Division III level.
Yes.
And so NCAA is celebrating 50th anniversary for Division II and Division III. Mm-hmm. Tell me about, as a student athlete or as a former student athlete, how you've seen it grow to today, and then we'll come back with how you plan to see it grow in the future as an AD.
Okay.
In D3.
So great question. That is not an easy question to answer, but I'll start with this. So yes, Ayanna Tweedy, born and raised in Chesterfield, Virginia. I actually went to an HBCU in college, Bowie State University, the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland. And that's where I got my roots in working in college athletics. I was a 3-year student athlete, scholarship student athlete. I threw the shot put in discus there and became the captain and became all things for everybody else in the department. But that's where I got my first start in working in administration. I actually was the national SAC representative for the conference office. And I don't think I graduated from SAC at all at Bowie. I think I kind of just stayed on since I was there. But I was able to meet with different commissioners, different athletic directors, and saw people that looked like me in the seat, and that's where I wanted to be. And I mean, bouncing from D2 to D3 has been a dream of mine, and a real pleasure. I honestly could tell I've grown and matured in this division. I see people that look like me and that have allowed me to just blossom. And just from a division perspective, the student athlete voice is growing.
Yes.
We are getting, and I say we because I'm still a student athlete. We are getting more access to different conversations on governance level. We're getting more access to ask the question and ask the hard questions to our chancellors and our presidents about the student athlete experience and how what you do affects us. And just the joy to see how far we have come. But we have a little ways to go, especially when it comes to gender equity, providing student athletes with the same opportunities in sports. And at the end of the day, sports brings us together. So we shouldn't, I guess, have barriers in front of them to be active in this sport. I've been playing sports since I was 8 years old. I played basketball up until I was 18. And in between it, I started throwing the shot put around because I really just wanted to throw further than the boys. That's the only reason why I wanted to be in track. Then I realized, I can get a scholarship for this. Okay, I'm going to get serious. I got serious. But I realized that, sports is just a great connector, and both divisions really have given us a platform for not just student athletes, but for administrators and just women, the opportunity says, hey, I thank you for seeing me, but there's still work to be done to make sure that everyone has access to sports.
For sure. And I love how you mentioned that they both provide so much value and feedback, because a lot of the times, especially as an aspiring administrator, you hear just D1. And as being a former D1 student athlete, that's all you know. And so whenever I came to the NCAA as post-grad, and understood like what student athletes had to go through at a D2 and D3 levels, but it's all for the love of the game.
Yep.
It's not a job.
Yep.
So for me, my question to you is like, how do you put across the value that D1, D2, and D3 are more equal rather than stepping down? It's more stepping across.
Yeah. I mean, when we used to come to the national conventions, we hung out with D1 athletes. We are all humans at the end of the day.
Yes, ma'am.
And so just because you get up at 6 a.m. and I get up at 8 a.m., it's the same sport. I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. I'd rather get up at the 8 a.m. But we all love sport, and we all have something in common. I didn't really have an issue coming up that, oh man, that they're D1 and I made friends with everybody, so that didn't really bother me. But I hope that the impact that I made showed that no matter what division that you started with, if you stay in athletics, that doesn't have to be the division that you end with. But the goals are still the same. We're all here to play sport. We're all competitive. I'm a competitive athlete at heart. At the end of the day, I want my student athletes to know that they deserve the same thing as our D2 and D1 counterparts. Now, granted, some people may not agree with that. And yes, our resources are different, but the passion and love is still the same. And so I may not be able to get maybe a $1 million donation, but I can get a couple thousand.
Yes,
ma'am. We can work on that. And as long as it's going to their experience, their goals and their vision, that's all I care about. All that other nonsense about, now granted, I wish that I had NIL letter in the mail for me. But that means we're making progress, right? And even for some student athletes, they don't feel like playing a sport is a job. But to me, it was a job. Like, I got my scholarship. This is what I'm working towards. This is what I'm working towards to keep. Because if I don't show up to do my job, that money can be taken away from me. So to me, it's a perspective. And I guess it depends on the athlete. But even now, I got a job to do. And I want to make sure that I can continue to do my job so I can put food on my table too. But again, it's all for the love of the game, and it's competitive, and that's the energy that you should bring.
I love it.
Yeah.
This is just so inspiring. And currently this interview is happening at Women Leaders. And this is just impactful. This is my first time being at a Women Leaders convention, and your cup is being overflown or overfilled, or what is the word? I
actually tweeted that though.
Yes.
Like, my cup is already filled, but I'm ready for the overflow.
Yes.
And no matter what session I'm in, and I am weak when it comes to tearing. Like, I will cry for anything. And I thought I was a thug. Like, I thought I was able to hold it in. But I realized that's okay. Vulnerability is okay. And even for this position, I've learned that it is okay to be your authentic self. And I've always shown up as that, right? If you've known me as a student athlete, I was the loud, outspoken student athlete. It is somehow in the past 10 years, the Lord done kind of molded me into the more refined. There you go. The more refined administrator, where I think about things a little bit more thoughtfully before I respond. And even if I want to respond, if it's not fruitful, then I'm not going to say it.
Love that.
Because at the end of the day, my words and my actions, I don't want that to pierce somebody else's flow. And so, this convention is everything. I think my first Women Leaders Convention was in 2017. And I was actually one of the honorees for the Rising Stars Award.
Snaps.
And so when I see Janae and everyone upstairs, I'm like, oh. But now, I mean, under 10 years later, now I'm sitting in a seat, and now I'm looking at and being able, well, I'm not just looking at, but being able to celebrate everyone else around me that have celebrated me coming up. And this convention is powerful, and I advise everyone to get a chance to come.
Yes. And I wanted to touch on something that you said. You're talking about your authentic self. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ayanna, the first time I met you, you just brought your energy, you brought your passion and everything.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit more of how you present yourself and how you carry yourself into the rooms where sometimes you're not supposed to be in, quote unquote, and just kind of how you carry yourself and how you remain yourself, even at the highest pinnacle of being an AD?
In my bathroom at home, I have about six or seven sticky notes on my mirror. Some of them list out, you are the woman for the job. God created you to be different don't stand in the crowd, stand away from the crowd, because at the end of the day, that ain't where you're not in the crowd, right?
Yes.
Like, you need to find ways to be different and pull yourself apart, because that's what's going to make you impactful. And a couple of different scriptures, and I wouldn't be me if I didn't say it was hard, right? Like, giving yourself words of affirmation is hard daily. Mm-hmm. But I know who he created me to be, and I am okay with saying I am a loud, passionate, active former student athlete who was advocating for the student athletes that are competing for today. That's who I am in my core. But I also tell my coaches and my student athletes now, when you walk into different spaces, make sure you take the pronouns with you. What I mean by that is, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a niece, I'm a mentor, I'm a mentee. I'm a cook. I am a cheerleader at heart. Like, these are the different things that make me who I am. And if I don't bring a piece of that into the workspace, I lose my identity.
Yes.
And good, bad, and different. My student athletes want to see the cheerleader. They want to see the counselor. I went to school for mental health counseling, actually, at Bowie State. And then my father passed in 2017. And so I made a career shift and I made a school shift to where I went into higher education administration, where I truly felt like this is where I actually needed to be. But when I walk into my office, they want a counselor. They want a best friend. They want a parent. Like, they want something that can connect them to home. And so I don't talk to them like I'm reading a textbook. They're going to get the real Ayanna. I'm like, I don't like that. You should try something else. Like, yes, I'm going to give it to you just as spicy as it was given to me, but I'm going to do it with love. Like, you know where it's coming from. And if you just want to come to me and cry, we can cry too. Like, my office has snacks. It's a big old couch if you want to take a nap. Like, the same access that was given to me, I really pushed to have that same access for other people. And that's who I am. Yes. Like, if it was any other way, I don't think I would be in the seat that I'm in now. And the more I have conversations and interviews about, like, student athlete engagement and coaching coaches and being able to let them know that, hey, I'm human too, I found that is my superpower, and I'm able to engage and build more intentional relationships that way versus just being stagnant and a stick in the mud, or just like, oh, I'm behind my computer typing up email. That's not me. Right. That's not me. And I appreciate, my president and my VP for giving me the opportunity to be that outgoing person, because that is my light. And it's not till recently that I realized that your light is still there. Like, don't let others dim it. Because unfortunately, we live in a world that people like to do that. Yes. They wake up because they're not secure in themselves. And I have to remind myself that I have to wake up on the good side of the bed, but also remind myself that your light is too bright. And as you can tell, I have a Baptist background. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. And so even when it does get hard and the barriers are in the way, just jump over it. Now, granted, I was not a hurdler, but I think Dr. Carla Harris, who spoke yesterday, has a great illustration about track and field. Like, the hurdles are there, but that doesn't mean that you can't get to the other side where there's solid ground. And so I can tell, a track is a way of life. Like, you can pull any illustration of life from track. And that's exactly how I would describe my path right now.
I love this. This is making me want to do backflips, run into a brick wall. Like, you're really empowering me right now. And I had to do some research on you before I interviewed you. So I went deep. So okay. I saw that you were a hairstylist too.
I was.
And an RA.
I was. Yep.
And a coach. What don't you do at this point? But let's just get into that. Out of all those different experiences, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned to make you the leader you are today? What's been the most impactful?
The first word that came to my mind is multifaceted. You need to have a couple different tools in your toolkit. Yes. In order to connect with other people. And like you said, I received my cosmetology license in high school. My parents were my biggest supporters behind that, and helped me keep a couple dollars in my pocket when I went to college. And it was a time where everything was just new, and we were doing braids and Senegalese twists and weave. And I didn't know how to, this is so funny, I didn't know how to do a sew-in when I got to college. And as soon as I got there, the first 6 months, I got it because everybody was doing them on campus. But that's how I got to connect with people. I was able to go into a salon once I graduated and really meet people that didn't look like me. but they loved hair and they loved making themselves feel good. And when I look at myself, I actually locked my hair in 2020 in COVID. This is an expression of me. And I want to make sure that how I show up is a representation of my family. My dad used to do my hair before we would go to school. It may not always be like straight. Like the part may be a little bit crooked, but it's done. The gel is there.
The gel was gelling.
Right. You got a couple barrettes in there to make it look clean. And I always remember him saying, don't walk out this house looking all anyway.
Right.
My grandfather was the same way. My grandmother was the same way. And I carry that with me all the time. And so being multifaceted helps you connect with people. It truly does. It allows you to break the monotony of just the day to day. Like, hey, how you doing? You did you find a hairstylist in town? Like, how's your dog? Like, do you want to play date? Now, granted, my dog is a little bit passionate. Apollo cannot play date with everybody, but we can be in the same vicinity. Like, he loves people. And I've just been able to find opportunities for me to just say, you know what? I'm human too. And just because I'm your supervisor, I don't like the word boss, doesn't mean we can't be on the same team. We can't level out. We can't have common denominators that make us who we are.
Yeah. I've always been told, don't use the B word. Don't use the B word. Don't use boss.
Nope.
Something I wanted to touch on is when you said multifaceted. So I currently have an issue to where, like, while I'm going into this industry, I have several different things that I want to do and that I'm good at. But then you run into the issue of you're not an expert of one thing. So I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Can you just kind of talk about how to market yourself when you're good at multiple things, but you kind of have to choose one to get into the industry?
So, and let me know if I didn't answer this question. So I started in compliance. I started in compliance and game day operations. And so I was under athletic director that was like, hey, if you're good at it, let me know what you want to do and just go for it. And I realized that no matter what position I had or what title I had, that was going to get me prepared for the seat that I'm in. And so now I have the opportunity, and I don't like the word sitting back, but that's what I do. I have the opportunity to watch other people grow and move in what they love to do. But I'm never going to ask somebody to do something that I've never done before. I done moved tables and chairs. I was outside in the rain. I know how to stat a lacrosse game. Like, I know how to do certain things. But now I need to watch back and let other people grow and evolve. Dr. Jen Fry, she reviewed my resume and my cover letter and gave me the opportunity to say, you're not telling your story enough. And it is okay for other people to shine light on you to help you get to that next step. And so I have a laundry list of people that I could name that I probably will forget. And I don't want to forget nobody's name that have been able to be in spaces where I'm not and advocate for me and tell my story before I get to meet that person. And so having other people tell your story for you helps you get into that space and helps you get to that next seat. And to the point where sometimes I didn't even have to interview. I just showed up as me. And they told me, hey, someone told me something about you that I think was really cool and I think would be a great addition to our space. Let's have a conversation. And I think from there, because I believe I'm a humble person, I don't like to brag about myself. I don't want to tell everybody like everything that I've done. Like you said, being an RA, that was one of my favorite jobs on campus. I used to keep my door open and cook for all the my students on the floor. Like they knew Tweedy was cooking because you could smell it down the hallway. But that's just my genuine personality trait. And so when other people share that with CEOs or other presidents or other ADs, they're looking for either their next number two or the next successor for their position, I don't have to do no work. And when you do good work for other people, people are going to see that and they're going to share your story before you have to do anything.
That was beautiful. That was great.
I mean, that's how I truly believe. And that's why kindness is so important. And people take that for granted. And I think this is the other tidbit about me. I pray for discernment forever because I want to be able to walk into the space and know who's not for me or not. If you are for me, it's going to be genuine. But if you're not, it's going to show. And in the first 30 seconds of me talking, just like, no, this isn't going to work. And so being able to discern who's in your circle, who's not, who you can call your allies. Sometimes God's going to take you through a fire first to show you who they are. But when they show you, believe them the first time. They don't need to keep messing up your flow to know that they're not for you. But I truly believe that just being kind and being intentional and being able to say, you know what, I want the best for you, because in the end, that's going to come back to you and you're going to get the best out of other people.
Yes. So for me, what do you recommend that I do? Should I get an expertise when I'm starting in this industry, or should I still navigate the multiple opportunities for myself?
Say yes to everything. My own personal opinion. If you just go in with one, like I did, so if you just go in knowing compliance, but your AD needs you to run a basketball game or do the scorebook, like I did, I was thrown into that. I didn't know how to do a scorebook, but once COVID hit and I was serving as the number 2 in my department, I had to run a scorebook for the entire season. No one else on my staff knew how to do that. And so you need to say yes to everything, because you never know when your next opportunity is that you may have to serve as the admin for this game or jump in to do this event. So, I mean, some people may have a different perspective, but for me, because I've seen it done and I've did it, never say no. Say yes. Now, you may be tired and your plate may get full, but just know one day you can just go to your office and just be like, okay, I got somebody to do that. I ain't got to do that today. But you know that if and when it comes up again that you need to do it, you'll step up to the plate and do it.
The grind.
Yep.
The grind. We talk about that in terms of being a student athlete, a coach, working in the industry at all different types of levels. And so for you, now that what some people could say you've reached your pinnacle of the AD spot, how do you maintain your professional development? How do you make sure your cup is consistently filled?
I'm going to try not to tear up. Because when I hear that, people may say that, but I don't think I have reached my pinnacle. I turned 30 this year, May 26th. And knowing that I'm standing on the shoulders of other administrators and other ADs that look like me, I'm not done yet. This won't be my last institution. This won't be my last conference that I'm in. And I realize that I take that to heart. I do. I wanted to, when I was a national SAC rep, I wanted to get to the seat quicker. I still had to be polished. I still had to be reformed. I still had to attend certain things to make sure that I knew what I was signing up for. And granted, you will never know what you sign up for to the day one starts. So, but I knew I had everything I need to do well at this position or do well at this job. These conventions, being able to go back to NACDA, even if it's not for all the sessions, but to just be around people that understand what I'm going through and being okay to be vulnerable with them. Because it's not easy every day. And when I realized that, I'm like, okay, I'm not by myself. I'm not the only one. I come here and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I know who to call. And to be honest, I had to look at my schedule and figure out what I had to cut out. I live an hour and a half away from church. So Terre Haute is west of Indianapolis, and I go to church in the city. And I realized that's a part of my profession, not even just my professional development, my spiritual development. If I can take time to go out to a basketball game, a football game on the weekend, then I can go to church on Sunday.
Yep.
And I need to be okay to say that out loud. And so this year, I reminded myself that it is okay to make sure your non-negotiables are voiced. And that's a non-negotiable with me. I can't give him thanks without being able to be in his presence. And actually serve. So I serve on the audio and visual ministry. So I'm doing social media. I'm making the videos and the clips.
Snap.
And so I'm taking the pictures throughout the services. So that's me on Sundays and some weekends when I'm free. But that's what fills my cup. Because for me, most scriptures help me get through where I'm getting through. But also Commissioner McWilliams Carpenter helps me get through what I'm getting through too. And so sometimes it's hard, and sometimes I forget that you do have a grounded foundation of people in a community. But when I come to places like this, it's a good reminder that I'm not by myself. And you will know my cup is filled because I'm going to be crying in the corner. All the tissue just gone. I just use shirts and sweatshirts to cover up my tears, but that means that I know I'm in the right spot.
Good tears, though.
Good tears. Yeah.
Good tears. So we're at this convention at Women Leaders in sports, not college sports anymore.
Yep, in sports.
And what's been your key takeaway so far? And what are you most looking forward to the next few hours and the next day?
Oh, it's a combination.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I can't remember who actually said this, but it's a combination of a couple of different things. When it comes to not letting others dim your light and just aligning with the idea that you are the person for the job, you were hired for this position, you are the boss. It's okay to tell yourself that you are the boss. Now, you may not want others to say that, but it's okay for you to say that out loud to yourself. The decisions you make, they're for the good of the group. They are, they help you get to your mission that you created for this department. Don't let others feel like they can just run over that. Sometimes I forget that I'm in the seat because I want everybody to be a part of the decision making. But sometimes you need to make decisions by yourself and be confident in that. And in the past 2 years for me, I've had to make a lot of decisions by myself, but still make sure I bring in the key people that I need to inform. But some of them were by myself to the point where I'm like, if I make the decision, are people going to leave? Are people going to shift? And sometimes you got to take that risk because on the other side, the sunshine is coming. You're going to get different people in this department that's going to help you move your mission along. But you also know that you are doing it for your student athletes. And at the end of the day, I can say that when I sit back and look at all the decisions that I had to take a risk or a leap of faith of, they were because of my student athletes. And when they come and tell me I have a better experience, or their parents come see me at graduation and says, something has changed since you've been here. I don't know what it is yet, but there's a shift. That tells me that I'm doing my job. But in the heat of it, it's not going to feel good. Taking a risk in this seat when you're by yourself, it's not going to feel good. But now I can go to either my Hall of Fame events or my basketball events, or even just a regular day in the office. I can now see people in my office that look like me because we have shifted the culture. We have shifted the way we think about serving our student athletes. 30 to 35% of our population is student athletes. That means we have a mixed reflection of diversities, race, ethnicities, backgrounds. That means the people that are on the team that I'm on as administrators and coaches, we need to be a reflection of that. And not just by the complexion of your skin, but ideas and thoughts, how we serve them. 20 years ago, we were serving student athletes in one way, but right now they're asking for a whole different type of coach and administrator. And if you can't show up for them in this way that they're asking for, you're not going to make it. And I'd rather go to work at peace and come home knowing that we got 1% better today. And so that is my mission. That is what makes me ease and makes me go to sleep at night better. But yeah, that's I don't even remember what you just asked me just now, but I just know I answered it. But that is where my heart is when it comes to that.
I love this. And I think we have time for one more question. And as a current NCAA Post Grad Intern and someone who's started in this industry, I know I've repeated that this whole podcast, but what advice do you have for, one, people who are just now getting into the industry, and then two, for people who look like you coming into this industry? So I need a two-parter, two separate questions.
I may have to ask you to repeat the second question.
Okay.
The first one is, going back to what I said earlier, say yes, because you never know when that next opportunity is going to come. And all the tools that you learn from saying yes is going to help you be great in where you are. Be great where your feet are planted. I was always looking for the next thing because I felt like, okay, I'm done. And I'm 2 years, I'm good. I'm done. I done finished this project. I done this task, and I'm on to the next thing. But make sure you are an expert in that. And don't just be an expert in one thing, be an expert on multiple things. So that when you are having a conversation with your next employer, your next aide, or your next president, they can see a multifaceted version of you. And that's a good thing. And remind yourself that you're going to give yourself grace. It is okay. You're going to fail. I fail all the time. I'm like, oh well, go on to the next one. Like, it's okay. But if I can give you advice, that's what I would give you.
Thank you. And now for the second part, for people of color, what advice? Is it the same or is it a bit different?
I will add to it.
All right.
You're not going to be the only one for long.
Ooh. That's a mic drop right there.
You're not going to be the only one for long.
Wait, say it one more time. One more time. You
are not going to be the only one for long. So when you walk down that hallway, when you walk into that meeting, it will feel weird because it felt weird to me. But as long as you know your allies and knowing that what you're doing is making an impact for somebody else and for that space, you're going to pull somebody else up, or someone's going to notice that we need to bring more. So you're not going to be by yourself for long.
Thank you so much for taking time to meet with me, and
thank you for
being
having
on
me.
The One Question Leadership podcast. We truly enjoyed this. Do you have any last minute shout outs or anything you'd like to say?
I'm ready to have a great rest of this convention. I'm ready to party tonight with the rest of my women leaders, and I'm just excited and blessed to have this opportunity to come speak with you.
Thank you again. We'll have a good time in NOLA. And Yay! Thank you so much for listening to this episode of One Question Leadership Podcast. That was Ayanna Tweedy, aka Miss Tweedy. Thank you so much, and we appreciate it. As always, I'm Kendee Hilliard, the NCAA Post Graduate for Division II Governance. # make it yours. And thank you for listening.
This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.